Imagine discovering the quiet janitor at your high school is secretly driving miles each night to restore forgotten graves. But what he uncovers beneath the soil could change everything you thought about history and humanity. Content warning. This story deals with themes of death, forgotten histories, and emotional trauma. It is presented with respect and sensitivity. It's 11 p.m. in the sleepy town of Millfield, Ohio. The high school is swallowed in darkness except for the flickering fluorescent lights in the janitor's closet. You might barely notice Tom Henderson, the unassuming janitor who's been working these hallways for nearly 2 decades, quiet, polite, rarely speaking unless greeted. By day, Tom is almost invisible, sweeping floors, cleaning blackboards, fixing leaky faucets. But by night, he slips into an entirely different identity. After clocking out, Tom doesn't head home. Instead, he climbs into his beat-up pickup truck and drives miles to an ancient, neglected cemetery on the edge of town. What drives a man like Tom to become a midnight caretaker of graves long forgotten? Millfield might seem like any other Midwestern town, but it has a shadowed history buried beneath its tidy streets. Founded in the late 1800s as a coal mining hub, it's a place where generations of families lived and died in hardship and secrecy. Through economic shifts and fading industries, many old cemeteries were left abandoned, their weathered headstones toppled or broken, names eroding into silence.
What are we leaving behind if even the dead are forgotten?
Tom asked me once, his voice somber as he ran his hand over an old, cracked gravestone. One frigid winter night in late January 2018, Tom was restoring a particularly derelict part of the Millfield Cemetery when something caught his eye, a freshly disturbed patch of earth beneath the snow. Beneath it, tangled in frost, was an old wooden box, carefully buried but far too recent to belong to the cemetery's 19th century residues. Inside the box were letters, yellowed with age but unmistakably 20th century. Some bore the seal of a local hospital, others were handwritten confessions, cryptic and haunting. Tom's curiosity, which until then was fueled only by a quiet reverence for preserving graves, ignited into a full-blown obsession. What was hidden beneath Millfield's soil was not only forgotten bones and epitaphs, but secrets someone had tried and failed to bury. Imagine sitting down with Tom in a cluttered, dimly lit workshop, the walls covered with repair tools, worn gravestone fragments, and newspaper clippings about the town's forgotten past. He's grizzled but gentle, eyes reflecting 1,000 stories no one else seems to notice.
I'm not a hero or a detective,
he says with a shrug.
Just a guy who believes some stories belong to all of us, and that sometimes when we clean the past, we clear the way for the future.
As we start peeling back the layers of Tom's work, you realize his secret life as a grave restorer is interwoven with the ghosts of Millfield and the living who refuse to let them go quiet. Though Tom works in shadows, locals have noticed something strange. People whisper about the grave man, who shows up to town meetings with notebooks full of names, places he claims are being erased from history. Some think he's eccentric, maybe a little obsessed. Others fear the truth he's uncovering. Perhaps, as Tom suspects, there are forces in Millfield that prefer the past stays buried. Imagine waking up to find that one small action, a late-night discovery in a frozen cemetery, has set off a chain reaction you can't control. For Tom Henderson, that's exactly what's happening. The morning after unearthing the mysterious wooden box, Tom can't shake the unease gnawing at his conscience. In the hazards of sleepless hours, he rereads the letters. Some appear to be confessions, referencing the Cole Street incident and the girl from number 17. Names he recognizes, names buried as deeply as the graves he tends. At work, Tom overhears cafeteria gossip.
Did you hear? Police were out by the old cemetery last night.
His heart skips. He realizes, stunned, that dawn patrol has already been tipped off, even though he left nothing to mark his presence. Someone else must be watching. He returns to the cemetery that night, feigning the indifference of routine but keenly aware of every crackling twig. This time, he brings a notebook, jotting names from the weathered stones, matching them to scraps of memory. Amid the silence, an owl cries. In the cold breath of wind, Tom imagines voices, witnesses left voiceless, yet restless. What he doesn't know, his presence is no longer secret. Someone has been tracking his visits. His heart skips. He realizes, stunned, that dawn patrol has already been tipped off. Even though he left nothing to mark his presence, someone else must be watching. He returns to the cemetery that night, feigning the indifference of routine, but keenly aware of every crackling twig. This time he brings a notebook, jotting names from the weathered stones, matching them to scraps of memory. Amid the silence and owl cries, in the cold breath of wind, Tom imagines voices, witnesses left voiceless, yet restless. What he doesn't know, his presence is no longer secret. Someone has been tracking his visits. Scene 2, Ghosts Among the Living. As the days pass, tension builds not only within Tom, but across Millfield. History teachers at the high school begin assigning research projects on local legends. Old-timers drift into the cemetery in daylight, laying flowers or watching Tom from a wary distance. Then, the vandalism begins. On one Friday evening in February, Tom arrives to find a fresh grave defiled, plastic flowers ripped away, headstone cracked, a slur scrawled in red paint. Tom photographs the damage, later showing the images to the local paper. The article runs quietly, but now the cemetery is a battleground. Tom's wife, Julia, worries aloud.
Why do you keep poking at the past? Maybe some things are meant to stay buried.
But Tom can't stop. He feels a duty pulling at him stronger than self-preservation. If someone is actively trying to erase the dead, doesn't that make remembering them even more crucial? His repairs grow more urgent. He starts working with gloved hands, even in broad daylight, prying up weeds and scrubbing graffiti through stinging wind. Sometimes he discovers new clues. A coin pressed beneath a marker, a brittle envelope wedged under stone. Every small find feels like a message. The story at the heart of Millfield is thick with threads, some fraying, some knotted, all connected. Tom digs into local archives, spending hours at the library. He learns the Cole Street incident was a fire in 1967, killing 3 children believed to be trapped inside an abandoned miners' dormitory. The case was officially ruled accidental, but rumors of arson and a town-wide cover-up persisted for decades. A letter from the box reads, "I will never forget that winter. I begged them to check, but they wouldn't listen. When it's my turn in the ground, please don't let my name fade away like theirs. M." He wonders, was the letter writer responsible or a victim? Why hide these messages in a grave rather than tell the truth? Tom contacts the Millfield Historical Society, seeking anyone with information. An elderly man named Otis responds, inviting him for cinnamon toast and strong coffee at a cramped brick house. Together, they sift photo albums, thick with dust and sorrow. Otis points to a faded snapshot, 3 children in snow boots, standing outside the ruined dormitory.
They were never meant to be there. Not that night. But some folks have always picked whose losses count.
Tom asks, "Do you think it was arson?" Otis is silent for a long moment, stirring coffee.
In Millfield, a truce like the creek in July, buried under silt and poison. You want to step in, make sure you know what you're washing off.
While Tom pieces together the past, he faces external threats. One night, his truck tires are slashed. Another, he finds a dead crow nailed to the cemetery gate. Julia pleads with him.
This is scaring me. Whoever's messing with you, they're dangerous.
Tom's resolve only hardens. He decides to digitize the grave records so nothing can be lost again. He starts a website, anonymous at first, detailing the graves he's restored and the stories he's uncovered. Local teens mock him online, calling him the ghost blogger. But messages trickle in from people thanking him for finding their lost relatives. Midway through Act 2, Tom is invited to speak at a town council meeting about his work. It's an ambush. A local real estate developer, Claire Bronson, confronts him, alleging that his website is hurting property values and stirring up trouble. Tom calmly cites code, the cemetery's status as a historic site, protected by state law. Bronson storms out, but not before whispering, "Enough is enough. You don't know what you're meddling with." At home, Tom finds a typed letter slid under his door. If you keep digging, you'll end up buried too. Stop now. In March, an anonymous tip brings police to Tom's doorstep. He's accused of grave robbing and disturbing burial sites. Officers search his workshop. They find only cleaning supplies, repair tools, his own records, a testament not to theft, but care. The local paper eats up the story. Janitor or desecrator. Tom is suspended from his janitorial job, pending investigation. But some townsfolk rally behind him. Emails of support flood his inbox. Others remain silent, afraid to take sides. Tom's isolation grows, even as his sense of purpose sharpens. He walks the cemetery in the blue light of dawn, searching for solace among the stones. He finds a note taped to the statue of an angel. Thank you for remembering us. Let's pause and reflect. Why do stories like Millfield's matter? Why does restoring lost graves spark such fury or hope? Across countless towns, cemeteries hold silent epicenters of collective memory. Neglected, they become battlegrounds for truth, pain, and belonging. What gets remembered and what gets erased? Which stories carry forward and who decides what gets forgotten? By stepping into this fray, Tom is doing more than maintenance. His fight is existential, a question of whose history is worth saving and who gets to decide. The investigation against Tom fizzles, but the town's tension simmers close to boiling. One rainy night, Tom returns from a meeting with Otis to find the cemetery ablaze. Someone has set fire to the repair shed. Garden hoses hiss in the dark as Tom and a neighbor beat back the flames until the fire department arrives. Behind the shed, beneath half-burned boards, Tom finds a new box. This one contains Polaroids, scorched at the edges, showing the night of the Cole Street fire. In one photo, a group of local men, clearly visible, pouring something from cans in the shadows by the dormitory. Tom's voice shakes as he shows the photos to Otis. Otis, pale with dread, recognizes one of the men, the late mayor's father.
No one ever talked about this. Those men made sure of it.
Among the remaining unburned letters, Tom finds a confessional, a deathbed note from one of the men involved in the arson, pressured by influential townsmen to cover it up, blaming the tragedy on careless vagrants instead of naming the true culprits. As news of Tom's finding spreads, the town of Millfield faces a reckoning. Protests gather at the cemetery with families demanding justice for the children lost in the Cole Street fire. The current mayor calls for a special inquiry. For the first time in decades, the secrets buried under Millfield soil are being reckoned with, and it's because one janitor dared to confront them. Tom, meanwhile, is both celebrated and condemned. His work has cracked the town wide open. He stands among the restored graves, surrounded by reporters' cameras, but his mind is elsewhere, on the unknown writer of the first letter, the children whose names he's fought to preserve, and the burden of witnessing pain most people choose not to see. Imagine you're Tom Henderson, standing alone amid the gravestones as dawn breaks, the night's trauma still etched in your memory. Smoke from the smoldering shed curls into the blue morning air. The Polaroids and confessions are spread on the tailgate of your truck. Your hands tremble not from cold, but from the weight of history exposed. Word spread quickly. Some townsfolk see you as a crusader against dark legacies, others as the destroyer of Millfield's good name. Local TV reporters huddle near the gate, their vans blotting out sunrise, waiting to film your next move. Police, under public pressure, have launched an official reinvestigation. The names in the letters and photos are being cross-checked with surviving town elders. The new mayor, tongue-tied and sweating in front of flashing cameras, promises full transparency. But you know, deep down, that truth is rarely so clean. At the next town hall, the energy is electric, almost dangerous. You're ushered to the front row beside Julia and Otis. Protesters overflow the meeting. Their signs read, "Remember the children," and "Honor, not cover-up." Claire Bronson, the developer, tries one last time. She takes the podium, voice sharp with accusation. "Why dredge up pain? Isn't it better to let the dead rest?" You stand, heart racing, and address the room, not with anger, but with conviction. If we let lies fester, the wounds never heal. The truth honors both the living and the dead. The silence that follows is heavy, broken only by the shuffle of papers as council members stare at the evidence you provided. An elderly woman in the crowd begins to sob softly. A vote is called. Should the town file for an official apology from the state and fund a memorial at the Cole Street graves? The resolution passes narrowly as news cameras capture the catharsis, both relief and heartbreak, in the faces around you. But even as justice stirs, there is one last reveal. Late one night, you return home to find an envelope taped to your door, marked only M. Inside is a single typed page. Some of us tried to speak and silence was forced on us. Thank you for not letting the silence win. With the note is a small, battered locket, inside which are the names of the 3 children lost in the 1967 fire, names nearly erased from public record. It's then you realize the anonymous letter writer was Mary Ellen, the children's older sister, now long dead, but buried in the furthest corner of Millfield's forgotten graveyard. You rise early, returning to her grave. The headstone is battered, mossy, half-shaded by tangled branches. With careful hands, you restore her marker, leaving the locket at its base. As you finish, you whisper into the chilly spring dawn, "I remember you." In the weeks that follow, Millfield convulses with change. The damaged graves are restored, etched anew with names and words of love. The Cole Street Memorial is unveiled, not just for 3 lost children, but all who were kept silent for the sake of appearances. Town archive records are digitized, sealed against manipulation, and made available for future generations. You are quietly reinstated as janitor, though your presence in the halls now draws respectful nods, and sometimes pained apologetic glances from neighbors who doubted you. Otis passes away peacefully that summer, the truth he feared finally spoken aloud. At his request, Tom is asked to keep his grave attended, a promise Tom makes with unwavering pride. Some wounds in Millfield will never fully heal. Old resentments and fears don't vanish overnight. But for the first time, the shadow over the town feels lighter. Imagine passing through Millfield years later. The cemetery is alive with fresh flowers and regular visitors. Teachers assign projects on local history, discussing not just coal barons, but the janitor who saved the memory of the voiceless. The Cole Street Memorial stands gleaming, adorned not just with names, but with a quote derived from Tom's speech, "What we remember survives." The town, once paralyzed by shame, now embraces annual remembrance days, giving space for grief, connection, and crucially, uncomfortable truths. Newcomers ask about the janitor who changed everything. Old-timers, even those who once resented the reckoning, acknowledge privately, often in whispers in the grocery aisle, that the hurt was overdue for airing. Pressure from state media and Millfield's own citizens prompts a broader review of neglected cemeteries statewide. The governor earmarks emergency funds, forgotten sites are identified, restored, and cataloged, with descendants traced and informed where possible. Laws are passed ensuring community oversight and legal accountability for cemetery maintenance, spurred by the Millfield revelations. Tom himself is recognized quietly. He accepts a Preservation Society award, but declines interviews, preferring the comfort of caretaking and repair to public glory. His wife Julia, once racked with fear, now walks hand in hand beside Tom, respected for her steadfastness as the town reinvented itself. And now imagine you're asked, if you had a chance to unearth hidden pain, for the chance to finally heal a community, would you risk being remembered as both pariah and hero? Whose story would you fight to save? Would you dare, like Tom Henderson, to spend your nights bringing dignity to the forgotten, even as the living resist you? This is more than a local mystery. It's an invitation to honor the history beneath our feet, to ask, what gets erased from memory, and who decides what is worth remembering?